In this video, we are going to talk about Manager Kim chapter number 186. In the last chapter, we saw that the king of the underworld and Sir Pyongyon Cho were fighting, and Sir Pyongyon Cho said that he will protect his people till the end. So we start off this chapter by hearing a background voice of the king. He says, sometimes to fill something up, you must first empty it. Everything has a beginning and an end. Parting always reminds us of those preciousness of bonds. So here we see king of the underworld and Sir Pyongyon Cho battling with their fist. They are going punch to punch on each other's faces, and the king is saying, as expected from the master of Cheon. And then the king says, I expected the security to be tight, but this is more than I have imagined. And Sir Pyongyon Cho is like, I appreciate that. And Sir Pyongyon Cho also says, considering what I expected, you seem to have come quite unprepared. But then we see a smile on the king's face. He says, you think I came here to steal something so important without a plan? Then we see a scene of one of the officers from Chinese National Security Department, Meng Zhe, talking to Wang Li, and Wang Li is saying, then it's a promise. Wang Li is looking for a signature on a certain document that this officer will maintain full confidentiality of their research on human experimentation. Wang Li was going to hand him a document and a pen, but accidentally his pen falls down. So Wang Li goes down to pick up his pen. He's shocked. He sees the right leg of the officer, and it looks like his right leg is made out of metal, and we know whose leg is made out of metal. So, and then we see that officer takes off his mask, and Wang Li is shocked. Wang Li is like, wait, what is this? And the officer throws his mask on the ground, and then we see the king saying, are you getting now? And he says, infiltrating disguised as someone is a normal part of our operations. Then let me ask you, do I still look unprepared? And then Sir Pyongyon Cho says, I told them to increase the security personnel, but they denied because they were worried that their secret would be leaked. So in the end, I came alone. Then Sir Pyongyon Cho goes for a punch. The king dodges under it. Then Sir Pyongyon Cho goes for multiple punches, and the king is just dodging it. Then king goes for a punch to Sir Pyongyon Cho's stomach. Sir Pyongyon Cho lands a clear right hand on the king's face. Then Sir Pyongyon Cho says, I would want to risk my life and settle this once and for all, but because someone left to protect besides. Then we see a scene of multiple Chinese officers walking in with the guns, saying they are bastards who are suspected for illegal human experimentation. If they resist, shoot to kill immediately. Then we see a scene of Sir Pyongyon Cho. He says, so stop here. And then we see blood flying in the air, and we are back to the original scene where the king and Tom Lee were fighting. He says, yes, I remember now, the fight with that man. If we had kept fighting, one of us would have died. I mean, guys, how strong was Sir Pyongyon Cho? It is sad that the child that he's protecting right now is the same person in the future who is going to murder him. And let's get one thing straight here. You couldn't kill Sir Pyongyon Cho in a fight just like that. He was killed because they have deceived him from the front, and one of his guys put a acupuncture needle behind Sir Pyongyon Cho's neck, and that killed him. So it is sad. But then obviously the Chinese public security intervened, and then we are back to the scene where Jin Chol throws that canister to Tom Lee, and Tom Lee shoves it inside the king's throat, and the king swallows it, and he feels like something is crumbling inside his body. That canister from Santiago's lab that Tom Lee just shoved down the king's throat, it looks like it's going to level up king's power back to normal like it was before. I mean, the king was strong. Even before the God's realm, the king was strong. So don't get it messed up. And that's what the king is saying. Then Tom Lee puts a punch on the king's face. He says, God's realm, how is it? Now can you understand the philosophy of my fist? Again puts few punches on the king, but the king blocks it. And this is happening for the second time here. Tom Lee puts a hard kick in the king's nuts. King has balls made out of iron or something. He just takes kicks on it. But still he feels some pain. He's screaming pain. Then Tom Lee kicks him away. Then the king says, I have to think about a way if it goes on like this. But again Tom Lee was going to attack, but the king has enough now. He punches Tom Lee away, and Tom Lee is flying backwards. And the king says, just because of the God's realm, do you think I made it this far? Don't be mistaken. I am still the king of the black market. And then he's thinking like, what happened to his subordinates? And suddenly he sees from his right side, someone is walking towards him, and it's none other than Closer. And he's like, Closer? He's awake. And we see something, a drug-like syringe in the right arm of Closer. And the king is happy. King is like, ha ha ha. And Closer says, boss, do you remember me? And then we see a scene of Closer running from the laboratory with a briefcase in his hand. Probably he has stolen the God's realm. He's bringing that into the briefcase to the king. But then he sees the king is taking the support of the wall, and he has his left hand on his eyes, and his eyes are bleeding. He's like, boss, are you alright? Just what kind of guy was he? And the king says, he was quite something. It wasn't easy. This time it was really dangerous. Losing just one eye was getting off easy. Then we see a panel of Sir Pyongyon Cho limping on his feet. Probably his left leg is injured. He's come back to the baby of manager Wang Li, Deva, and he says, poor thing, let's go with the grandpa. Then we see the scene of of the king and Closer. The king says, "It looks like you succeeded in your mission." And Closer says, "That's right." And the king says, "Good, give it to me. We will write a new history with that item. You and I together will become the mercenaries of this world. Let's go." Then we're back to the current timeline where Closer is saying, "At that time, the boss definitely said that you would go with me. The future of the black market would stand above the entire mercenary industries. There would be a lot more bloodshed, but you would be with me until the end. That's what you said." But we go back to the old panel where surprisingly Closer is not handing over the briefcase to the king. King is like, "Closer, what are you doing? Give it to me." And Closer says, "Boss, I have a favor to ask." And the king says, "Speak." Then Closer says, "When this mission is completed, I want to be free." And the king is like, "What are you saying? Are you saying you're going to betray me?" Then we see a scene from Closer. He's saying, "Finally, I found it, number 73. So this is where it was. It's been so long since I found this guy. He had a family to protect. That's why I couldn't carelessly go to meet him. If I approached him in the current identity, I was afraid of the harm that might be caused to him." Then we see Closer saying, "I apologize. The reason is personal matter, difficult to explain, but it's definitely not betrayal. Please believe me. I just want to exit quietly and live peacefully." It looks like when Closer was working for the king, he found out Manager Kim, who was his friend in the army, and he wanted to meet him, but because of all the complexity, he couldn't do it because he thought that it would cause harm to Manager Kim. So he couldn't just meet him directly. But that's why he asked the king that when this mission is over, he is going to leave the black market. But then the king doesn't like it. He grabs Closer's throat and picks him up in the air. And he says, "Emotion is the problem. Both that old man and you. Among the drugs you brought, there was definitely a drug that erases emotions." But obviously, the king being the king, he took one of those drugs Closer brought from that Chinese laboratory and he used those drugs on Closer to erase his emotions. So he forgot all of those memories that he had. He forgot the sole reason he wanted to leave the black market, which was Manager Kim, and he just became a empty, loyal dog doing his dirty work for him. This reminds me of the Winter Soldier. If you remember the Winter Soldier from the Avengers, he was also experimented like this. He forgot all his memories and everything. Then we see a scene from the current timeline where Closer is saying, "I fully understand why that was important. Having lost my emotions, the only thing permitted was loyalty, erasing sadness, erasing longing, erasing joy, erasing love. Upon the final remaining emptiness, I lived calling only empty faith real. All the side effects of the brain, enduring them, I lived only for you." Then he takes off that syringe from his right arm and says, "I have lived as your dog, but not anymore." And then we see Manager Kim walking behind the tree, and then Manager Kim says, "I heard the story that you did something terrible to my friend. Fate and sacrifice. The first mission these two undertook together, although it ended in failure. This last mission, I will make sure we get a proper payback. Let's go. Towards success we advance." And then we see a cold panel of the original Code 66 and Manager Kim standing together, and it looks like they are going to get the revenge on the king. So that's it from this chapter. Please like this video, give a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe. Click the bell icon. I'll see you in the next chapter. Thank you.